Glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Welcome to this morning Bhagavatam class. Today we are reciting the verse from Canto 4, Chapter 25, the characteristics of King Purañjana. And we are reciting the verses from 57 to 61. So we'll together recite first verse from the 57 and the remaining things I'll read out. Remaining. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, first one. Kvachit pibancham pibati Madiram Madavinhala Asanchayam kvachid asnati Satyam kvachid ashnati Jaksatyam sahajakshiti Kvachit pibantyam pibati Madiram madavihvala Asnatyam kvachid asnati Jaksatyam sahajakshiti Kvachit pibantyam pibati Madiram madavihvala Asnantyam kvachidashnati Jaksatyam sahajakshiti. Prabhuji. Kvachit pibantyam pibati Madiram madavihvala Asnantyam kvachidashnati Jakshatyam sahajakshiti Kvachit pibantyam pibati Madiram madavihvala Ashnantyam kvachidashnati Jaksatyam jahajakshiti. Mataji. Kvachit pibantyam pibati Madira madavihvalaha Asnantyam kvachidashnati Jakshatyam sahajakshiti Kvachit pibantyam pibati Madiram madavihvalam Asnantyam kvachidashnati Sakshantyam sahajakshiti. I'll read out the remaining 4 verses. Kvachit gayati gayantam rudatyam rudati kvachit Kvachit dasantyam hasati Jalpantyam anujalpati Kvachit davati davantyam Tishtantyam anutishtati Anusite sayanyam Anvaste kvachidastitam Kvachit chirnoti shanvantyam Pasyantyam anupasyati Kvachit jigrantyam Sprushantyam sprushati kvachit Kvachitcha sochatam jayam anusochati dinavat anu rishyati rishyantyam mudatim anumodate. So let's read one to one meaning, word to word meaning. Kvachit, sometimes. Pibantyam, while drinking. Pibati, he drank. Madiram, liquor. Madavihvala, being intoxicated. Asnantyam, while she was eating. Kvachit, sometimes. Asnati, he ate. Jaksatyam, while she was chewing. Saha, with her. Jakshiti, he chewed. Kvachit, sometimes. Gayati, he used to sing. Gayantyam, while his wife was singing. Rudatyam, when the wife was crying. Rudati, he also cried. Kvachit, sometimes. Kvachit, sometimes. Hasnatyam, while she was laughing. Hasati, he also laughed. Jalpantyam, while she was talking loosely. Anu, following her. Jalpati, he also talked loosely. Kvachit, sometimes. Davati, he also used to walk. Davantyam, when she was walking. Tishtantyam, while she was standing silently. Anu, following her. Tishtati, he used to stand. Anu, following her. Site, he used to lie down. Sayanayam, while she was lying on the bed. Anu, following her. Aste, he also used to sit. Kvachit, sometimes. Asitim, while she was sitting. Kvachit, sometimes. Shunoti, he used to hear. Shunvantyam, while she was engaged in hearing. Pasyantyam, while she was seeing sometimes. Anu, following her. Pashyati, he also used to see. Kvachit, sometimes. Jigrhati, he used to smell. Jigrantyam, while his wife was smelling. Sprishyantyam, while the wife was touching. Sprishati, he was also touching. Kvachit, at the time. Kvachitcha, sometimes also. Sochatim, when she was lamenting. Jayam, his wife. Anu, following her. Sochati, he was also lamenting. Dinavat, like a poor man. Anu, following her. Hrishyati, he used to enjoy. Hrishantyam, while she was feeling enjoyment. Muditam, when she was satisfied. Anu, following her. Modate, he felt satisfaction. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Let me read the translation. So it's very. When the queen drank liquor, King Purañjana also engaged in drinking. When the queen dined, he used to dine with her. And when she chewed, King Purañjana used to chew along with her. When the queen sang, he also sang. Similarly, when the queen cried, he also cried. And when the queen laughed, he also laughed. When the queen talked loosely, he also talked loosely. And when the queen walked, the king walked behind her. When the queen would stand still, the king would also stand still. And when the queen would lie down in bed, he would also follow and lie down with her. When the queen sat, he would also sit. And when the queen heard something, he would follow her to hear the same thing. When the queen saw something, the king would also look at it. And when the queen smelled something, the king would also follow her to smell the same thing. When the queen touched something, the king would also touch it. And when the dear queen was lamenting, the poor king also had to follow her in lamentation. In the same way, when the queen felt enjoyment, he also enjoyed. And when the queen was satisfied, the king also felt satisfaction. Purport. The mind is the place where the self is situated, and the mind is conducted by the intelligence. The living entity situated within the heart follows the intelligence. The intelligence is herein depicted as queen, and the soul under the mental control follows the material intelligence, just as a king follows his wife. The conclusion is that material intelligence is the cause of bondage for the living entity. The point is that one has to take up to spiritual intelligence to come out of this entanglement. In the life of Maharaja Ambarisha, we find that great Maharaja first engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. In this way, his intelligence became purified. Maharaja Ambarisha also used his other senses in the service of the Lord. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity in the temple, nicely decorated with flowers. He engaged his senses of smell by smelling the flowers, and he engaged his legs by walking to the temple. His hands were engaged in cleansing the temple, and his ears were engaged in hearing about Krishna. His tongue was engaged in two ways, in speaking about Krishna and in tasting prasadam offered to the deity. Materialistic persons who are under the full control of material intelligence cannot perform all these activities. Thus, consciously or unconsciously, they become entangled by the dictations of material intelligence. This fact is summarized in the following verse. Let's do Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Tavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing the Purañjana pastimes, where Narada Muni is explaining how Purañjana is involved in sense gratification activities. So it was mentioned, like just if you read the translation, few lines, when the queen drank liquor, King Purañjana also engaged in drinking. When the queen dined, he used to dine with her. When she chewed, King Purañjana also used to chew along with her, right? So here King Purañjana is following his wife footsteps, like whatever she is doing, he is also following. But in the previous verses, Narada Muni and the Prabhupada commentaries, it was explained, King Purañjana represents it's like we are conditioned living entities who are involved in various sense enjoyment activities. Then who's the queen? So in the purport, Prabhupada was mentioning The intelligence here depicted as a queen. So, this, so if I remember my last week explanation about the mind, intelligence, soul, and sense objects, how it interacts, we'll briefly just recollect that. So, like how the mind, the intelligence, it's dictates the mind. If the intelligence is materially entangled, it dictates the mind, and mind dictates the senses, and sense will do all the activities to fulfill the desires, right? So this is how it. So in this case, intelligence is a queen represented here. So that's why whatever intelligence is saying, okay, drink the liquor, that we are going to take the liquor. If you choose something, we need to choose. So whatever intelligence is guiding, the mind will take, and it will give the delegate to the senses. This is how the Prabhupada was giving in this analogy. So it's the same thing. And if we do a little bit deeper in that, we have from Bhagavad Gita, we all know, we have gross body and subtle body. Subtle body is nothing but mind, intelligence, and false ego. That's where we discussed how all are in. And one more important thing is the false ego is the one which is one more important aspect which is causing us to bind in the material world. Our ego is, we are servant of Krishna. Jivere Sarupa Krishna Nitya. But false ego is, we are thinking we are body, not the soul. Right? So this material understanding making us to think that, okay, since I am the body, let me use all my senses in using this material energy and enjoy this material world. So we all trained, our senses, mind, intelligence, everything is trained because we are under the false ego of that we are the body. So this is how we are completely trapped in this material world. And when we see this all Purañjana's this chapter verses, so there are two, apart from the regular, these verses, all these things verses are talking about King Purañjana, how he's involved in material enjoyment, equivalent to how various conditioned living entities are involved in sense enjoyment. That is one of the important aspects from we can discuss. But another secondary things which we can derive from these verses is, we cannot study scriptures on our own. That is one important point. I'll explain how. And we need to connect to a bona fide spiritual master and who is connected to disciplic succession. How we can derive this? Let's imagine, read all these verses and translation without Prabhupada commentary. What you will understand? Like I'll take the example of text 54. Of the many inhabitants of this city, where there are two persons named Nirvak and Peshashkrit. Although King Purañjana was ruler of the citizens who possessed eyes, unfortunately he used to associate with these blind men. Accompanied by them, he used to go her here and there and perform various activities. So when we read straight translation and without Prabhupada commentary, it's very hard to understand what exactly. Maybe bits and pieces, some high level understanding we may get, but we may not get the proper essence of the verse which it is talking. And there's one more verse, 53rd verse, if you see, just I'm taking few samples. Similarly, you can go through all the verses. Another gate on the western side was known as Nirati. Purañjana used to go through this gate to the place known as Vyasasa, accompanied by his friend Lobdaka. So when we go through all these verses and translation, it's very hard to understand on our own what is exactly the essence of these verses, what exactly the meaning of this is, what it means to us, right? It is very difficult to understand. Hence, when we are studying the Bhagavatam, in any other scripture, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya, anything, Srimad Bhagavatam, it is very important that we cannot study on our own. We need to take the shelter of bona fide spiritual master who is connected to disciplic succession. This is one of the important point we can emphasize through these verses, how the verses are there and how Prabhupada commented. And how Prabhupada gave the commentary based on his acharyas. Prabhupada most of the time he used to do Vishwanatha Chakravarti commentaries and all other acharyas commentaries, and how they got, and they track back finally Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the instruction to Rupa Goswami. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. And here Vyasadeva was there. He is a literary Shaktavesh avatar of Krishna. So it is all coming through the Krishna. The knowledge is passed through various acharyas, and we are reading through Prabhupada. So this emphasizes that We cannot study, we should not try to study Bhagavatam on our own. Take the shelter of senior Vaishnavas. Through them, we read these scriptures. It's easy to understand the essence of those verses, what it means to us. So that is one of the important aspects I would like to touch from these verses. And the next one is this. This verse and the previous verses, it was completely talking about material enjoyment. And when we talk about material sense gratification, material enjoyment, one of the famous verses from Bhagavad Gita we can recollect. Devi yesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva prapadyante mayam yetam tarantite. So the Krishna is saying that the divine energy of mind, consisting of three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Now, this we all know the famous verse. Most of us we know the meaning of this, right? We cannot cross over this material world. Why we cannot cross over this? Why it is difficult to cross over the material world? We can think about. When we try to analyze again, it goes back to the underlying reason. If you try to the root reason, if you understand again, our gross and subtle body, right? These all mind, intelligence, false ego, and all the senses are tied up with a material energy, which is three modes of material nature. So when all these things are tied up, it's difficult to come out of this material bondage. How? We can example, if the person is tied up with a rope, two hands are tied up, everything, body is tied up with a rope. Can he come out of the rope on his own? No. Right? The same way, all our senses, all our subtle, gross, everything is tied up with this material rope, the material modes of material nature. If you receive that in the Prabhupada, depicted in the Bhagavad Gita, like the soul is like the three modes, like a puppet acting on each and every living entity with the strings. There are some pictures are there in Bhagavad Gita, right? So that is how we are tied up in this material nature. So if you want to come out of this material world, it is very difficult. But Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, if you surrender to me, you can cross over it. But first of all, to surrender to Krishna itself is difficult, because our hands are tied up, our legs are tied up with a material rope, right? Someone has to cut the rope. Someone has to take it out of the rope from our body and take it through the process to help us to surrender to Krishna. So who can surrender? Who can help us doing this? So we can say some few stories. We know all the stories, but we'll try to connect the story in relation to our topic. So we can see the Nalakuvera Manigriva story from Srimad Bhagavatam. We know this story. Most of the times we hear during the Damodar month, right? So Nalakuvera Manigriva, they are the sons of Kuvera, the treasurer, right? And he was extremely wealthy, powerful, and they both are the privileged. They got all the facilities, and they are involved in all the heavenly pleasures. But once what happened, and this Nalakuvera Manigriva taking bath in a river with a woman, and Narada Muni is passing through that, and these people Nalakuvera Manigriva ignored completely. And at least the women were trying to protect by seeing the Narada Muni, but these people were completely intoxicated, involved in the drinking the liquor and enjoying with women. So Narada Muni was upset, and then he tried to curse them to become Yamalarjuna trees, the long trees. But again, later when they regretted, then Narada Muni gave the boon that, okay, you become a Yamalarjuna trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, and the Krishna will deliver you. But this is another Acharya commentaries. When devotee get angry and he curse, it's like a boon. It will help us to come out of our material sufferings. So, and we know all the past, just briefly touching, but we'll take the key essence from this, what I'm trying to connect to our discussion. And then when Nalakuvera and Manigriva, they became Yamalarjuna trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, and when little Krishna, when the Damodar Leela was happening, my mother tied little Krishna with a wooden grinding mortar, and then the mortar was passing through the two trees, the Yamalarjuna, and he delivered them, right? So that is one story where Nalakuvera Manigriva was delivered with the support from Narada Muni's curse. And another story we can think of is, we can recollect is Jagai Madai. Because why I am taking these two are materially entangled. They were doing so many material sense gratification activities. So that's why I took these stories here in this context. Jagai Madai also, they are respectable Brahmanas, but they start developing bad habits, sinful. They started doing very sinful activities. They used to gamble, drink, alcohol, womanizer, and so many things they are doing. They used to terrorize all the Navadvipa streets. And on the basis of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions, Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, they are trying to spread the holy name. And these two approached Jagai Madai. First time, they threatened, abused. Both Jagai Madai threatened, abused Nityananda Prabhu. But again, Nityananda Prabhu, next day again he went there. And Nityananda Prabhu, and then the Jagai and the Madai, one of them, then he took the clay pot, he struck on his forehead of Nityananda Prabhu. Then the blood started bleeding from his forehead. Then the people ran to the Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu came and he got angry. He took the Sudarshan Chakra, tried to kill both of them. Right? So, in both these cases, then what happened? Finally, Nityananda Prabhu stopped him. So, we came to spread the love of Godhead, not killing by people. We don't want to kill them. So, finally, they both delivered. Right? In two instances, when we try to see what is the key essence, right? In the first case, Narada Muni helped Nalakuvera and Manigriva to get the deliverance from the little Krishna. And in this case, Nityananda Prabhu, who is Balaram, who is a spiritual master, helping Jagai Madai to get the mercy of Mahaprabhu. Right? So in all these two instances, what we can understand, the Krishna will send the Guru, and we should take the shelter of Guru and take the surrender to Guru, take the shelter of Guru, take the instructions, then Guru will help you to take the knot, the material rope. He will help you to take the rope, cut the rope, which is completely tied up in your material body, senses, everything, and he will help you to surrender to Krishna. So, this is an important message. We can understand how we can come out of this material entanglement. So, like if you see, Purañjana was doing all the things, whatever intelligence is guiding, he is doing. We also do sometimes. Suddenly, we may be, as soon as we see some nice gulab jam or rasgulla in the restaurant, even though we are not hungry, our mind tells, the intelligence is giving the instruction, eat rasgulla, one. After eating one, let me try one more. Right? Intelligence is giving the instruction and your mind is accepting, your sentence will take and enjoy, right? Same thing so how we can do any material sense enjoyment we are involved in? Only way to the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying it is very difficult to overcome. We understand why. It's tied up with a rope, material knot. Who can cut the material knot? With the help of spiritual master. We can take the shelter of spiritual master and he will help us to come out of this material. He take out the material rope, then we can progress take his instructions and progress in our bhakti. So, in Chaitanya Charitamrita Majjalila, we have Brahmande Brahmite Kone Bhagyavana Jiva Guru Krishna Prasada Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. Right? So, Krishna sends Guru. And by taking the Guru's instructions, taking the shelter of Krishna Guru, then we will come back to Krishna. So, this is how the process is established. And now, so, again, this is one aspect of the discussion where we are trying to understand how we can come out of the material entanglement. But these are the specific instructions through with the help connecting to the bona fide spiritual master, which is connected to Parampara. Through his instructions, we can come. But before that, we started some discussion about the reading scriptures. Right? It's reading Bhagavatam. Based on these verses presented in this chapter, we can see example. And we cannot study Bhagavatam on our own. We need a Guru, Guru's help in understanding the Bhagavatam. Through his under the instructions, we can study scriptures. Then, what is the result of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam? Then we all know the Parikshit Maharaj pastime. When he got the curse from Shrungi, he's going to die in 7 days' time. Then he started listening to Srimad Bhagavatam sincerely, attentively. And what is, at the end of after hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva, the Parikshit Maharaj, was completely absorbed in the lotus feet of Krishna. And he was not having any fear about the death. He was not having any fear about biting by Takshak snake. So, All the things were completely removed. I was completely absorbed in Krishna, lotus feet. Before Taksha came and bite Parikshit, he left his body. So that is the effect of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And how? He did not study on his own. Sukadeva Goswami was there. He was teaching, and Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj was reasoning. So this is the effect of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam under the bona fide Guru. And now when we come to the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are first few chapters, first, second, third, we see the questions in sages in Naimisharanya asking questions to the various sages, to Suta Goswami. Right? There are 6 questions they've asked. First is, what is the ultimate good for humanity? What is the essence of all scriptures? And why did Lord appear as a son of Devaki and Vasudeva? What are the activities of Lord in his various incarnations? And where did religion take shelter after Krishna returned his abode? And the last question, please describe the past tense of Krishna and his devotees. So these are the various questions sages in the Naimisharanya were asking to Suta Goswami. And one of the important question which is connected again our discussion is, where did religion take shelter after Krishna left this abode? Krishna was there in the incarnate. Krishna came down in the Dwapar Yuga. Right? So he performed various leelas. And then everybody, all the devotees were sincerely following him. Now Krishna left Dwapar Yuga. Now Kali Yuga started. Then sages were worrying where they need to go and how they will get the instructions, the religious dharma, how to follow the dharma. There, this in the Bhagavatam it was mentioning, Krishnasva damanopagate dharma jnana dibisatha kalau nasta drisham esha puranakro dunodita. So the Bhagavatam was saying, this Bhagavatam Purana is brilliant as a sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. So, this is what the Bhagavatam says. When the Krishna left the body, Krishna but gave the Bhagavatam to us, Srimad Bhagavatam, this Purana. By taking this Purana, all our darkness, ignorance, through which, because of this ignorance, we are entangled in this material world and we are involved in all the sense gratification activities, right? So, the Bhagavatam Krishna gave this Bhagavatam to us. By reading this Bhagavatam under the bona fide spiritual master, we can come out of this, remove this darkness, came out of ignorance, means our avidya will go, we get the transcendental knowledge. So, what is, like when we see the Bhagavatam first canto to last canto, various pastimes are there. All these pastimes are teaching what are the key things we are learning from these pastimes, like take the shelter of lotus feet of Krishna. Then it tells how to take the shelter of lotus of Krishna, by surrendering to Krishna. Then how we can surrender to Krishna? We can surrender by taking the shelter of a pure devotee. And how, then that is a spiritual master. And the spiritual master will give the instructions. And with the instructions, what kind of instructions? When we know when we are taking the initiation, we follow the 4 regulative principles and chant minimum 16 rounds. Then we hear our spiritual master lectures, and through all their guidance, we start hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Then what will happen? That what will happen finally? In the Prabhupada commentary, it is mentioned. Right? In this verse is mentioned, if you have to come out of this material intelligence, the suffering, material sense enjoyment, our material intelligence has to be replaced by spiritual intelligence. Right? So when you do all these activities, by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam sincerely under the guidance of Krishna, by surrendering to Guru, by following the spiritual instructions of Guru, by reading again Srimad Bhagavatam, we can come out, our material intelligence will be diminished. It will be weakened. Then our spiritual intelligence will be strong. When that spiritual intelligence is strong, then your mind will not take any material. If some material desires are coming, intelligence will guide you. No, this is not the right thing. Don't do that. Then mind will filter it out. Ignore it. So this is how we can, the main idea of all the discussion is developing the spiritual intelligence. How we can develop the spiritual intelligence? By taking the shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And by then again with another important verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Nasta prayeshu badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naistike. So we need to read by regular attendance in classes on the Sri Bhagavatam, by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with the transcendental songs, is established an irrevocable fact. So what will happen when we need to write the Nityam Bhagavata Sevya? Here all our acharyas, gurus are telling Nityam Bhagavata two things. One is reading book Bhagavata and person Bhagavata. So both together we have to do. We are reading book Bhagavatam with under the help of person Bhagavata, pure devotee. Then all the troublesome things will be destroyed. All inauspicious things will be removed. And then our spiritual intelligence will be strengthened. It will become strong. Then we cannot all come out of this material entanglement. The knot which is tying up all our material senses and subtle and gross elements, material senses are tied up with the material knot, which can be removed by strengthening our spiritual intelligence. So this is what the key message I wanted to discuss from these verses, the 57 to 61. So in summary, we try to understand from this verse, we try to understand why we are, who is the king, who is the queen, and why we are entangled in this kind of activity, because all our senses are completely absorbed under material modes. And how can we, the Bhagavad Gita verse we took, Devi Yesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durataya, from there we understand it is very difficult to overcome this material world because of this material modes acting stringently on all the gross and subtle elements. We cannot overcome on our own. But the verse is saying surrender to Krishna. Even we cannot surrender on our own because completely your body, everything is tied up with a rope. You cannot come on our own. So we have to take the shelter of spiritual master. We understood these two stories, Jagai Madai and Nalakuvera Manigruva, where Guru came. Krishna sent Guru, and through Guru's instructions, we follow Guru instructions. So then we can start know how to surrender to Krishna. And then we came to the Bhagavatam, where we understand how Sukadeva Parikshit Maharaj was delivered by attentively hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And then we discussed by what the important thing is in first canto, that once the Krishna left this material world and the Dwapar Yuga, what is there for all our conditioned living entities to take the shelter? It was mentioned, the verse we took, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the ultimate shelter. And from there we know, when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, what we will achieve, we know, we will surrender to, we get to know that we have to surrender to take the shelter of lotus feet of Krishna, and how to surrender Krishna. By how we get to know how to surrender Krishna. How we can surrender Krishna? By the help of spiritual master, by taking his instructions, by taking his shelter. So with that, what will happen at the end finally? Our material intelligence will be completely weakened. It will be diminished. Then spiritual intelligence will be strengthened. Then our mind will take the instruction, spiritual, intelligence will completely filter out any unwanted desires which are not helpful for your Krishna consciousness. Then it will only give you spiritual instructions. Through that spiritual instructions, your senses, everything will act in that direction. So, mind and the intelligence in the same line. In the previously, it was an opposite. Even both are in a different line, opposite to spirit. Now, in this mind and intelligence in the same towards spirituality. That is why we are both will align. That's why example in the purport, Ambarish Maharaj, his intelligence is guiding to use all the senses in the service of Krishna. That's what Prabhupada mentioned in the Prabhupada, right? In today's Ambarish Maharaj, using his eyes to see the darshan of Lord, smell to flowers offered to Lord, taste, tongue to read Krishna's pastimes and pay 100%. So what is happening is both mind and intelligence are aligned in the spirituality. That's where he was able to do. So with all the help of Srimad Bhagavatam and Guru, we can also follow the footsteps of Ambarish. We cannot imitate, but we should take the essence, right? We should engage all our senses in the service of Radha Gopinath. So I will stop here. Any comments, any Yes, Prabhu. Surrender means accepting. You take the shelter of Krishna. First, surrendering to Krishna means you need to surrender to the Guru. Guru will give you the instruction. Surrendering to Guru means whatever instructions he is giving you, you strictly follow it. That is how you are surrendering to Guru. When you surrender to Guru, follow his instructions, then it will help you to surrender Krishna. Through those instructions, you will surrender to Krishna. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. So, see, the main key message summary from this is how to, yeah, even though we try to engage our senses in the service of Krishna, but due to our past swabhava, sometimes we get attracted towards the material side, right? Material gratification. And so, how to overcome that, right? So, okay, in one way I can think of this. Prabhupada gave in many times. Like whenever if your mind is agitated, you are trying to get absorbed in, your mind is pulling towards mind. Take the chanting, chant the Krishna holy name. And what will happen again, when you do the chanting, what is happening? Our mind is again aligned to the spirituality. So the spiritual intelligence will become stronger than whatever the material, because of material intelligence, whatever past swabhava it is coming, it can be nullified slowly. So, taking the shelter of Krishna, chant the holy name, engage in another devotion, try to divert your mind and come towards Krishna by chanting the holy name. That is one of the practical aspect we can think of. So, when you chant the holy name, again you are coming into the purview of spiritual energy. So, then you can overcome this mind agitation, any material disturbance causing. That's one practical aspect I can think of. So, that's why Prabhupada mentioned to chant the holy name, come in front of the deity and chant the holy name anytime if your mind is disturbed because of. So that's the easy approach. So then you will come under the spiritual purview. Then your senses will be again aligned. My intelligence and mind will be aligned, and you will not go back to the material thing. Yes. Yes, Mataji. So, if I understand your question, even though we are fully involved in devotion service, why our past swabhava again takes us to the material side? Yeah. So, Mataji, I can see what I can think of the why it is happening is like because of Jiva's free will. So, even though we are spiritually strong, but your free will is dominating that spiritual intelligence, everything, you can still it can happen, right? One example I was thinking, I think of we have a harbor bridge in Sydney, right? So many people go up, but there is a risk that every time you can fall down from the bridge and you can leave your body, right? But many people are climbing the bridge. But how many people are getting that accident? Zero. If you see in history, we don't hardly find any such. Why? Because we know it is dangerous and we take all precautions. When we go there, with all precautions we go and we come back safely. But if somebody wants to commit suicide, nobody can stop. Right? That is the free will is there. Similarly, even we are practicing devotional, we are sincere and we want to partner, and our material intelligence, through our devotion, all the intelligence and mind are aligned in spirituality. But the free will, sometimes it can, if somebody wants to, even though there is all safety measures are there, if somebody wants to jump on, commit suicide, nobody can stop, right? So this is the same thing. The free will dictates sometimes, then you can fall down. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय।